let's talk about the New York Football Jets and the future of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had all these demands and all these things that he wants. You know, um, I look at it. They went out there, they acquired Devontae Adams, and a lot of people thought that was going to be a needle mover. I didn't think it was going to be a needle mover, and they lost to the New England Patriots. That same Patriots team we just talked about in Gerard Mayo, they just lost to. They're 2-6. Things are
Yep.
looking bleak in New York. Let's talk about it. What does the future hold for the New York Football Jets? Parker, what say you?
Yeah, no, I've talked about it on the show, and I've talked about it with people offline as well. Where if I'm the Jets organization and I understand that we brought in Aaron Rodgers, it's not going the direction that we hoped it would go. I think everyone in the country has to assume that you never really know if you're getting him back for another year. You could be getting him back for another 3 years, or he could be done after the season. So I think from if we want to stick with the front office perspective, I think it has to be, hey, we have to build as good of a team as we can behind Aaron Rodgers, and then that way, once he's gone, we don't know what pieces we're going to lose. Once Aaron Rodgers is gone, are we going to lose a Devontae Adams? Are we going to lose a Tyron Smith? Are we going to lose all like an Alan Lazard? Like, how many holes are we going to have to fill? I think if you can approach every offseason that you are dealing with the Aaron Rodgers situation with that mindset, I think that makes that transition out of Aaron Rodgers a lot smoother, and I think that puts you in a much higher tier of potential success moving forward from him. However, they still have 9 games left to play this year, and they are what seems like spiraling. It seems like every piece they've been able to add, and I'm sorry, Daniel, I know you look very distraught over there. I'm really sorry for your Jets, brother. But no, it really does feel like they are just finding ways to lose. And I feel like I talk every week, every time I'm on the show, about there's teams that find ways to win and there's teams that find ways to lose, and that's really what separates that middle class and turns them into high and low class NFL teams. And the Jets are a team that they have the talent. They have a lot of guys that I think a lot of people like. I mean, I like your Brees Hall, I like Garrett Wilson, and this defense has a lot of fun pieces and it's been performing really well. But this offense can't get out of its own way. It feels like everything is disjointed, and I feel like that's just what it's going to be for them for the next 9 games. I never saw this team as a playoff team. I never saw the hype behind this team, and now we're just seeing it live. I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised. I didn't necessarily think it would be this bad. However, I didn't think it couldn't be. So I think again, moving forward, you have to ride out the players you have, these vet guys that are in there that are probably not going anywhere as long as you have Rodgers, but you also have to anticipate, hey, when Rodgers is gone, who are we losing, quote unquote, and then who's stepping in for those people.
No, you're right. And I think when you look at the Jets, what are their options? If you go and cut an Aaron Rodgers this offseason, you're coming with $45 million of dead cap. So it's probably not the greatest move. But at the same time, we discuss this. You have to find a backup plan. You have to find something that if all hell breaks loose, that you've got another option. The same thing, and maybe it's a conversation for all NFL teams when you look at your quarterback and you have to find a backup quarterback. But situation is really dire. And what I mean by that is you went all in on Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking to the front office, right? You sold your fan base on this idea of we're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers and be the Tom Brady Buccaneers. We're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers and be the Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams and win a Super Bowl. Hell, you can't even win. Are you going to be a 500 team this year? And that's the issue right now. So I think that Aaron Rodgers, and it's time that we do put some blame on his shoulders. Not saying that we haven't, but he hasn't looked great. He's thrown some beautiful balls. He's, looked accurate at times, and he's looked like him and Garrett Wilson are on the same page at times. But at the end of the day, at some point, the conversation has to come to the quarterback as well. When you have weapons like Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, and Brees Hall, at some point, I'm seriously going to look at the quarterback. And if you look at any situation, you put those weapons with Joe Burrow, you put those weapons with Tua, you put those weapons with any of these other quarterbacks, respectfully, I think they're having a lot more success. So I'm with you. I think that Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, he should not be the quarterback for the New York Jets in 2025. It should be an option, but that is not what I would be looking. I would say, hey, let me find somebody else that can potentially be the future. Because at this point, in this moment, I don't think Aaron Rodgers will be there for, at most, I think next year will be his last year and should be his last year with the New York Jets, because this has been downright abysmal.
I mean, let's talk about it. What coach are you bringing here to fix that mess?
Yeah.
What coach are you bringing in to fix that mess? Who would have touched that with a 10-foot pole? Are you going to promote Nathaniel Hackett? Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to bring Mike McCarthy in if he goes let go from Dallas? Like, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to monitor the situation in San Francisco and say, hey, you know what? Hopefully they let go of Kyle Shanahan. We'll bring him in. Like, what do you do to change, to change the trajectory? That's the real question. I just think that if they were going to do something special, well, it would have been this year. And they got to, they got over eager to, dismiss their head coach at the time, Robert Saleh, who I still didn't believe they would have won with. But you tanked the season when you did that. You basically said, hey, we don't know what we're doing this season, but what we do know is we got to move on off of this guy. Was Robert Saleh that bad to the point where you had to move off of him, mid-season? So for me, I think Aaron Rodgers has put this organization in a position, a very awkward position for me, a very awkward position that is probably going to result in not obviously no championship, but will they even make the playoffs? Will they make the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers leading it? I think that there's something to be said about sacrificing your future, sacrificing team culture, sacrificing the morale of the team to satisfy an egotistical quarterback who, for the reasons we're seeing, it didn't pan out in Green Bay towards the end there. And I was of the belief that maybe he wasn't playing up to the best of his standards because he just wanted to be moved, because the Packers had no interest in moving off of him. They wanted him to stay in Green Bay for his career. Well, you look at it. Maybe the Aaron Rodgers we saw at the end of his Green Bay tenure is who he is right now. Maybe that is who he is. Maybe it's just that simple, right, Park? Maybe he just that player.
I didn't understand the move. I didn't understand the Jets spending so much to acquire an Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand. Like, I think everyone saw kind of him falling off in Green Bay. I think everyone was kind of excited for the emergence of a Jordan Love, and they're like, okay, Aaron Rodgers can, maybe pull the Brett Favre, and as Jordan Love, takes over that job, hang out for a couple years and maybe work with him, and then maybe move on something. Then maybe you go to the Jets, but bringing in Aaron Rodgers as like the savior of your football team never made any sense to me, because I don't think he really even was that in Green Bay. Like, how much, I get that they had success in Green Bay, they had playoff victories in Green Bay, but really at the end of the day, when you look back at that career, how much like Super Bowl potential did he have and still not win one with in Green Bay? There was a lot of really good teams throughout his tenure, and I just never understood the move. I never understood what the Jets were doing with an Aaron Rodgers. I never understood what the Jets were doing by bringing in. I feel like everywhere Aaron Rodgers goes, he's able to just play with his buddies. I've never understood that concept. I just, this whole Jets regime shifting to the Aaron Rodgers is going to save us mentality never made any sense to me. I never saw it going well.
Well, it's New York. It's New York, right? They go off of the big names. If they can go out there and acquire big names, it's the Big Apple, the big city. Even though it's New Jersey, they're going to sell you on that. They're going to sell you on the trade acquisitions. They're going to sell you on the future Hall of Fame quarterback that definitely has character flaws and leadership flaws. That's what the Jets faithful had hope for. And you got to look at it from this perspective. When you're a fan of the Jets, what have they had to really cling to recently, right? Geno Smith was their quarterback at one point in time, and that was made a big deal. That flopped. They had Zach Wilson, who turned out to be a bust. The last time this team really had excitement about something was when Ryan Fitzpatrick rattled off a couple of wins as their quarterback. Before that, Mark Sanchez. There wasn't too much to really, maybe that's the, maybe that's the situation in New York, right, where they have to kind of live in their reality. And I want to